Welcome to Tofurious Toys. For this one, we're going to be covering the Headless Horseman from Four Horsemen Studios. Let's dig in. Last year with the Figura Obscura Krampus, I got the email the day before and set an alarm so that I could wake up the next morning and purchase the figure. Trouble is, I live in the Central Time Zone and it was for Eastern, I believe. As soon as I logged in that morning, I was immediately heartbroken, but then was excited to see that there was another one in the afternoon. Fast forward to 2022, I get the same email, set the same alarm, and set myself up for disappointment yet again. Hopefully next year I'll remember. Over on the left-hand side there, we got the Figura Obscura logo there at the top, as well as websites for the Four Horsemen Studios. Over there on the right-hand side, we got the Four Horsemen logo at the top, a pretty sick image of the pumpkin head there in the middle, and directly under that, we got the name of the figure. There at the bottom, we got what looks like a pretty extensive bio of the Headless Horseman. There are places where the walls between this world and the next grow thin, allowing spirits from beyond to roam unbidden between the two worlds. One such place is a small village on the east bank of the Hudson River in New York. Originally named North Tarrytown, this haunted glen is more commonly known as Sleepy Hollow. Rumored to have been bewitched long ago, stories of strange happenings and distant voices on the air have long been told in Sleepy Hollow. The most dominant spirit that haunts this enchanted region is that of the headless, cloaked rider atop a great black steed, the Headless Horseman, said to be the restless ghost of a Hessian trooper who lost his head to a cannonball during some long-forgotten battle of the Revolutionary War. The Headless Horseman rides forth on the blackest of nights, desperately searching for his missing head. Any who are unfortunate enough to meet the galloping Hessian on his ride are never to be seen again, the only proof of their encounter with the dread apparition being the shattered remains of the jack-o'-lantern he often uses in place of his lost head. Here on the bottom we got the UPC code as well as a reiteration of the web addresses from the side. We also have the Four Horsemen horse skull logo. There is some legal information and a warning saying you could choke on these adult toys. On the top, we got the Horseman's H. I have it upside down. The front piece is held on by magnets, and you can pull it off to be a nice backdrop. I'll never understand in-package collectors because all of this plastic just obstructs the view. Let us break down these thin walls and get a better unobstructed view. Right, let's remove this back tray that's holding the cloak and the sword. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's take a look at what came with this guy. It took me way too long to realize what this was. It is the open hole neck meat, as well as a cross section of the spinal column. This jack-o'-lantern head sculpt with the flaming eyes and the flaming head is pretty sick. I really appreciate the flames on this thing. They look pretty great. I wish I'd had time to dig out some of my Ghost Rider figures to compare it to. There's just weird lines stretching across the center of the face. Here we have a right hand that has a ball peg on it to hold the pumpkin head in place while he is in that form. Here we have a swappable left hand that is a gripping hand for the sword. Here we have another left hand that's just kind of loosely open. It'll help give a more dynamic look if he's not holding the sword. Here we have a right hand that will grip the sword. Moving on to the showpiece here, we got the Headless Horseman himself with the jack-o'-lantern head firmly in place. Let's get this cloak and sword out. Here's the sword. It's a pretty standard sword. The paint on it gives it a nice little sheen. I like that a lot. This cloak is pretty huge. It opens up to about 180 degrees. It's got a nice little chain to hold it in place. There's wire inside of it that lets you pose it in a dynamic look. Alright, let's take a look at this beast. I love the face. I love the extra detail between the eyes where it's kind of scrunched together to give it that menacing look. Got this pretty huge popped collar. Here we have the standard Mythic Legions holes for attaching pauldrons or the wing adapter. It Very much looks like a surprised emoji. It doesn't look great, but it's not too terrible because you're made to put this cloak on. Let's get it flipped around here and we can start looking at the articulation. The head is just on a ball, so you can spin it around the full 360. It can look up a little bit. It can also look down some. Check to see if there's any movement at the collar. It does not move. For the arms at the shoulders, you can get it to swing up that far. Shoulder rotation, there's nothing in the way, so it does the full 360. There's a solo joint that pins into the elbow for a full 360-degree rotation there. It bends to about 90 degrees. The hand pins in at the wrist. The wrist folds palm in that far and palm out that far. All right, let's get these arms out of the way so we can look at the waist rotation. He bends back that far, forward further than he bends back, pivots to the left that far, and to the right just as far. Now we can see how he gets jiggy with it. Oops, the waist is a ball joint. Now we can get a better look at how well the legs work here. He can do a full spready. Joints inside here are pretty clean. He can kick his leg forward straight that far and out to the side that far. His knee has a single joint that bends to about 90. He's got the forward facing pin at the ankle to give it rocker articulation. The foot can point up that far and down that far. Give it a couple other wiggles here to see what it does. Straighten it out. All right, let's see what it looks like with him holding his flaming head. Hey, look, the flame effect comes off. Well, that was a little bit of a nightmare. All right, let's get the head off without pulling it off the ball. We want to get the peg out. That was a little bit tighter than I thought it would be. All right, let's get the neck meat in place here. Line up that hole on the collar there, and this is delightfully disgusting. You can see part of his spine and his throat hole. The wrist peg is a little loose, so if you don't have it perfectly balanced, it's going to flip over. All right, let's get this sword into his hand here. Time to take a look at the articulation of the horse. Better yet, let's take a moment to admire the sculpt of the horse and the saddle. Detail in there that lets you see the fine horse hairs. This horse looks evil. Got them red eyes and flared nostrils, bearing all of his teeth. There's no articulation at the mouth here, but his great sculpt, detail, and paint applications. This laid flat mane here doesn't match the aesthetic of the evil face of the horse. Let's pop that out and swap it out for this alternate one. This lighting lets you see more of that fur detail on the neck and body. The twisty tie put some creases in my reins here. Oops. Let's try this mane thing again. Well, that is unfortunate about the reins, but it's minor cosmetics. Store this up out of the way. Let us take a look at the saddle and stirrups a little bit. Got that bedroll there. All the metal rings and buckles have a nice silver paint job on them. The tail has full 360-degree rotation. I may not get this horse anatomy right, but I'm going to try. At the thigh here, the legs kick back this far. At the stifle joint, there is a full 360-degree rotation, as well as pivoting back that far and pivoting forward that far. At the hock joint, there is another 360-degree rotation with a pivot forward of that far and pivoting backward that far. At the fetlock joint, there is a pivoting pin that pins into the hoof area. It allows rotation at the hoof. The fetlock feathers keep it from rotating the full 360. All right, let's take a look at the front legs now. At the elbow joint here, it goes forward that far and back that far. At the knee here, it does bend to about 90 degrees with a single joint, and we'll do a full 360 rotation where it pins in. There's also slight rotation at the elbow joint. Front hoof is similar to the back hoof, where it pins into the hoof area and limits rotation with the fetlock feathers. Here at the base of the neck, there is slight side-to-side rotation, not much. The mane is loose again, so we'll continue without that. I can only seem to get his head to move up that far. Ah, crap. Here at the throat latch or jaw, it does move up a little bit and down a little bit. Not that far, though. Well, we can get a look at the inner workings here. Here's a little space filler to fill any voids when you get the horse looking down too far. Nice little ball joint with a peg that'll allow it to look side to side slightly. Can't really see that space filler there though. For the first comparison here, we have the McFarlane Toys Sleepy Hollow Deluxe Headless Horseman horse. Next up, we got the Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat Motaro 1/12 scale action figure. Next up, we have Night Stalker, the evil armored battle steed from Masters of the Universe. And the last horse we have is the Dark Knight Returns Build-A-Horse from McFarlane Toys. For the Headless Horseman, to the top of the jack-o'-lantern head is 6 3/4 inches, but to the top of the stem is 7 1/8 inch. For the horse itself, on all fours, to the tip of the ear is 9 1/8 inch. Were he to be standing on his hind legs, he would be considerably taller. For the first comparison, we will look at the inaugural Figura Obscura Krampus from 2021. Next up is the Silence in the Library Buzz Lightyear from Mattel. Here we have the DC Direct Blackest Night Black Lantern Batman, followed by another Johnny Depp adjacent character, Captain Jack Sparrow from the Disney Multiverses game from McFarlane Toys. Next up we have the Mattel Collect and Connect Lex Luthor Superman suit, followed by Mezco Toys 1/12 Collective Batfleck. Here we have the Diamond Select T'Pol figure from Star Trek Enterprise, followed by another Four Horsemen Studios offering Keltis from Mythic Legions, and the character he pays homage to, Skeletor from Mattel. Throwing in another flame-headed character, we got Endeavor from McFarlane Toys from My Hero Academia. Here we have a Raphael figure from Super 7 Ultimates, followed by your standard size Hasbro figure, the Black Ranger from the Power Rangers Lightning Collection. The Tail Functions has a pretty decent kickstand to pose your figures in this iconic pose. For the inaugural Figura Obscura figures, I have been lucky enough to see the email in time to actually prepare myself to purchase them the next morning. Both times, though, I set my alarm clock for Central Time when I should have been setting it for Eastern Time. Each time I was able to snag them in the second offering they had in the afternoon. Both times I attempted to do the all-in, but I ran into a technical difficulty that kept me from checking out. Fortunately, I was able to switch over and get the standalone figures. I love these figures. I have the Alethea Wave to compare the Alder, Apharius, and Phobos to at a later date. As always, I appreciate anybody who stuck with me this far. If you like what I'm doing here, please let me know by leaving some comments or pressing that thumbs up button. Subscribing is the best way to help. All of those actions will allow me to grow as a content creator, as well as motivate me to get videos out quicker and more often. Criticisms or suggestions are also welcome. You can do that by commenting below or letting me know by reaching out to me on Topfurious Toys on Facebook and Instagram. And as always, thank you for joining me here at Topfurious Toys.